they clicked go live.
Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. How does that sound? Go to trustedamerican.com to see how much they can save you today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. It is off field. I am Liv Moods.
Oh my, me too.
He's Brandon Krisztal. She is Liv Moods. I'm Nate Jackson. Huge Broncos win.
Woo!
Huge football weekend. Travis Hunter brings home the Heisman. But we're going to get into all the football stuff. First off, though, how are you guys doing today?
Ask him.
Brandon, how are you?
You'll
man?
hear by his voice how he's doing.
I'm doing great. I feel fine.
You do?
I don't have any reason to think my voice should sound like this.
Okay.
I don't have headache, sore throat, congestion, nothing.
Okay.
But I sound like someone stole my voice and I need to go find it.
He's
but
tapping into a sultry.
I do
territory
feel
today.
good. I do feel good about how the Denver Broncos performed yesterday, especially in the second half.
Oh, yeah.
5 takeaways.
Yeah.
Big day. Anthony Richardson, for as much fun as Jameis Winston is, Anthony Richardson is bigger, actually may throw a better ball,
Mhm.
and is a worse decision maker. So it's a fun combo.
It's
What-
weird because there was a lot that I loved about that game yesterday, and there's also a lot that I hated about that game yesterday as a Broncos fan.
What did you? Let's start off with what you loved, because this is
Of course.
about
Let's start with the
positivity first, right?
positive
Because
side.
the Broncos did win 31-13, and you guys remember that when we predicted the outcome,
You were very close,
I was
Mr.
close.
Nathan.
30-13 is what I said.
It was 31-13. That's
Um,
pretty impressive because those are some random numbers.
Yeah.
I think you just pulled them right out of your behind, but you were right.
I don't think they're not
pulled
that
pulled
random.
them out of my behind. I threw them at.
He said I put them. Where did you put them?
I put them in my behind, and that was a little bit weird. I'm just not gonna. But what did you love about it, Liv?
Well, interestingly, I what I loved is also what I hated at the same time. I didn't love how Bo Nix started in the game. I didn't love his first half.
Right.
But what I loved about what I hated was that despite his rough first half, despite the 3 interceptions, he just kept this cool, calm nature about him. And I think that is so important to not let those moments impact you and affect you. You can't feel sorry for yourself in this league as a quarterback when you turn the ball over, because it's going to happen. And we actually heard from Bo Nix talking about the fact that some of them were just really great defensive plays by the Colts. And that's going to happen. Even if you're a great quarterback, look at Patrick Mahomes. He's won how many Super Bowls? He's at the top of the league as a quarterback, but he turns the ball over a lot. And so I think what separates a good quarterback from a great quarterback, and I'm not saying Bo Nix is there yet, but what separates a good quarterback from a great quarterback is your ability to not let those moments shake you in the middle of a game. And he did turn the ball over 3 times, but ultimately he kept his cool, and in that fourth quarter they found what they needed to pull ahead. And of course, yes, you thank the punt returning and the defense for their X factorness and being the momentum changers, but I can really, really appreciate that as a rookie, Bo Nix can keep that confident and cool demeanor about him and not let those moments shake him so bad that he ultimately throws a game away. So it was a good thing and a bad thing that he played bad, but the good part of it is that he just kept pushing.
Yeah, they found
And
a
I
way to
love
win.
that.
Bo was asked about that after the game. Here's what he said. All right, maybe
The
not.
first one, it happens fast, whatever. The second one happens, wasn't a very good throw. So you get over there and you're like, what am I doing? That was, a bad play. And then the third one, the guy jumped it, honestly made a really good defensive play. I was like, was I late? What could I have done differently? But I thought, sometimes those guys make good plays. And, but regardless, that's 3. And it gets to where you feel like, man, every time I throw it, is it going to be picked? And, you start having those mental thoughts. But it's, it's challenging. It's probably the toughest part of our position because, you know what you're capable of. You know that, the read, how to, your footwork, how to go through it. And then, you just got to keep from being gun shy and keep from being, don't let one turn into another, false vision and just see things that aren't actually there. And, I felt like I saw the game well today, but that didn't keep me from not turning the ball over. So what is it? I gotta get back to the sideline and regroup. And I feel like the guys over there do a great job of keeping me encouraged and reminding me that it's a long game. Go out there and do what you do. But it's I'm not gonna lie, it's tough. You start getting a little bit in your head and you start questioning. What am I actually seeing? Am I what was that? And so it's tough.
Spoken like a true leader, really.
Yeah, forthright answer from a very mature young man.
That's the thing. And I also feel like, and you can speak to this more because you've been in locker rooms and you've had different quarterbacks, but I feel like respect, this is just a life thing, but I feel like respect is earned. And you don't always have a quarterback that even if they're doing their job, they get along with their teammates or their teammates go to bat for them as much as Bo Nix's teammates do. I mean, when you talk to Cortland Sutton and he's asked about, are you concerned with the way that Bo plays? He's like, no, it's a non-issue. Like they just really trust him, which I think speaks volumes of Bo Nix's leadership to be a rookie and to already have established that trust with your veteran receivers and just all of your receivers in general. But also, I think what makes Bo Nix so special and why this season is working is he's also earned the respect of Sean Payton. I think the moment that Bo Nix and Sean Payton got into it on the sidelines, it was like Sean got a little taste of his own medicine. And I think he liked it because I actually saw a montage of videos of all the time Sean Payton was in Russell Wilson's face and he just looked like a sad puppy dog sitting there taking it. It's like you kind of have to bark back a little bit. You got to push back. And I think that Sean Payton respects Bo for being young, but also being such a vocal leader.
Yeah. You mentioned Cortland Sutton. So after a couple of those interceptions or a couple of plays, he comes off the field and Sean Payton yells at Cortland. For whatever reason, we don't know what the route was supposed to be or if he, should have broken off a little, a little sharper angle and try to wedge himself between the defender who's jumping on it. But Cortland Sutton, clearly the leader of this team, because Marvin Mims also, we're going to get into this later, talking about Jonathan Taylor, right? Jonathan Taylor. What's that? Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's fumble. But Marvin Mims talking about it and saying like, well, he was asked what would happen if this happened in your locker room. He's like, well, I probably wouldn't finish the game. I don't know about Cortland. He probably so Cortland's a favorite child,
of course.
So you use him as an example. You get in his face when you want to send a message to others. He can take it if you yell at him. We're not yelling at Bo, but one of the things that I really like to see is after one of those, I think it was the third pick, when there was some boos happening in the stadium. I mean,
which is kind of crazy. Yeah,
and Cortland Sutton spoke about that, about how he was disappointed to hear that, because look, like you're talking about this guy as potential offensive rookie of the year, then he has a couple picks, and you're booing him. Like we're 8-5.
Don't switch up that fast.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how it is, and I witnessed that when Jake Plummer was our quarterback. Like we were winning ball games, and he would throw a pick or an incompletion in the first quarter, and people would boo him. It was like, what is going on here? So fans are fickle sometimes, which does suck. But it's the nature of the game. But what I really like to see was after that third pick, and Bo was, feeling like he was just describing, like, is every throw I'm going to throw good? But the defensive players who were going onto the field were picking him up,
And I love that.
Who were keeping his head, smacking him on the helmet, like, we got you. And then they were going out there and making plays and causing turnovers. Like 2 plays later, that fumble on that hit by who's the safety that came up and
PJ Locke.
Yeah, PJ Locke, an incredible hit.
Great hit.
Yeah, and that happened like a couple plays after that pick. So this is a team sport.
It's a team, and they have a good culture. You can see that now translating.
Yeah,
which I love.
And we've given so much credit to the defense because it's earned. But the special teams really was the difference yesterday. Marvin Mims getting the ball across 50-yard line repeatedly and knowing that at any time he can break it for a big one and almost got to the house. It really is a unique weapon. I understand every team has a punt returner, but they don't all have guys like Marvin Mims. I think the Turpin kid in Dallas is like that. There's a few more around the league. But I just go back and, I have no problem calling out our friend D-Mac because he, along with others.
I did hear you calling him out in the game, too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. They wanted to cut Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin in training camp.
Who's they?
Well, D-Mac and his co-hosts.
Really?
Yeah, you can go find the audio, and they made a promo out of it.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, you're dragging Scott and Tyler into this. I was like, D-Mac, do you still want to trade him? You still want to trade Marvin or cut Marvin Mims?
And what did he say?
He's like, I got it.
Yeah, like point taken.
He still thinks they should have drafted Justin Fields or Mac Jones ahead of PS2. So,
well, that's crazy talk.
Well, so yeah, Marvin Mims had that 60-yard return. He had a 27-yarder really, and so I also want to give props to the rest of the special teams unit, because
Mhm.
Marvin Mims wasn't out there shaking 11 guys. There were angles there. Yeah, he's taking advantage of them. But what that means are these guys are blocking their butts off
Mhm.
and taking that responsibility seriously. A lot of people think that special teams is just the time you get up and go take a piss and grab a beer, right? And get back to your seat in time to see Bo Nix throw it around. But really,
Yeah.
the special teams, and you can see it yesterday, can really sway a game. It's about momentum. It's about the energy of your team, and special teams plays allow you to swing that. And that's why I don't like the kickoffs now, because there's just no energy.
You don't think
there.
they're dynamic?
There's nothing to it.
The coolest thing is when you've got somebody that catches it right on the 1 yard. I mean, that's like about the coolest thing that could happen. But other than
And now they just do it's touchback every time. And
yeah, it doesn't feel.
these kickers, their legs are strong enough to just kick it in the end zone every time. And I don't know, why would you even chance it? So
I agree. I think defensive coaches, we've been talking about that since the summer. They're like, okay, it used to be the 20, then it was a 25, now it's a 30. Kick it out of bounds. Let's play defense.
Yeah.
All right, I want to talk about probably the momentum changing, probably the biggest play of the game, and probably a play that's going to haunt this young man for the rest of his life, and maybe even just I don't think it's going to get him cut because he's a very talented player. But Jonathan Taylor, it was 13-7 Colts. He had I don't know how long that touchdown run was, or that would-be touchdown run.
41 yards?
41 yards. He
Does that sound
breaks
right?
it, and that's not easy to do in the NFL. It's a very talented person who can do that. He's crossing the goal line.
40 yards. He was 41 to the end zone, so it was 40 yards.
40-yard run, yeah.
The
He gets
40-yard
credit
run.
for the 40-yard run, though,
He gets
right?
40.
Yeah,
doesn't he?
right.
It would have been
Before the fumble.
41 had he have crossed the goal.
But you're moving really fast when you're running that fast, and you don't have an awareness of where that line really is, clearly, because he let go of the ball before he crossed the goal line. It goes out of the back of the end zone, touchback, and the Broncos get it. It's like a turnover. A lot of folks were asked about this after the game, and here they are.
You mentioned that 10-minute window in the game where it kind of broke open. What was the key and the turning point, the one turning point you'd point to in this game?
Well, certainly Bonito's play. That runner dropping the ball on the goal line still, like, that was something. I mean, you go from scoring 7 to the other team, like a turnover.
If one of you guys did the Jonathan Taylor touchdown celebration, let go of the ball, what would the coach's reaction be to that?
I mean, some guys would have more leeway than others. Cortland Sutton would have way more leeway than me, but I think I'd be done for the game. Unless it was special teams or something, offensively, that's it. Coach Payton's real strict about that. He's real strict on turnovers, but yeah, thank goodness that happened for us and not on us.
I probably wouldn't be talking to y'all boys right now, to be honest with you. I think a lot of boys, I think I saw an interview of Coach Prom saying that if one of them boys do that, they might as well keep running because they're not going to be on the team no more. I would not want to have a conversation with Coach Payton after doing something like that. You got to finish through the end zone. That was a really big momentum swing in the game. They had a chance to go up 13, I think, at that point in the game, and I mean that would have been a huge momentum swing for them, and it wound up being a backfire and a momentum swing for us, being able to go out there and find a way to capitalize on what they did. And so I don't even want to imagine what that conversation would be like if one of us would have did that.
Yeah, I think that'll be difficult for the coaches and everyone of his teammates. It'll just be difficult, and I don't get it.
Yeah.
He doesn't get it because it won't happen on his team.
And if it did,
gone.
I think it would be history.
Can I just say though, as like this is where the emotions sometimes take over for me in sports. Like I really feel sad for Jonathan Taylor today.
Yeah.
Like I get it. It was a boneheaded decision and it was a mistake. And I can guarantee you this, it will never happen again at the hands of Jonathan Taylor. This is one of those.
Gonna carry that ball all the way in the
right.
locker room.
He may not let it go. The
No.
refs might have to be like, dude, give me the ball back. So I understand this is one of those, you got to kind of learn the tough way sometimes. And I guarantee you, Jonathan Taylor will not make that mistake again. But those moments make me like truly feel sad for them because it's just, it happens and it could happen. Sometimes these players do their celebration dances a little too early, where in my mind, I'm watching a lot going, they look back and they're taunting and it's like, do we not remember DK Metcalf coming out of nowhere?
Mhm.
Like these things, they could happen a lot more often than they do. But yeah, I kind of feel sad for him today. I bet he's having a very bad Monday.
One of the most famous incidents of this was on Monday Night Football. Deshaun Jackson on a post route against the Cowboys in Dallas. 15, you might have still been playing. It was that long ago. And as Deshaun's crossing,
that long ago.
You
huh?
old fart.
Fucking dinosaur.
I'll find the year. But as Deshaun's running, the ball literally just drops it at the one. I remember seeing Roy Williams on Thanksgiving. Cowboys playing the Saints in a game the Saints would ultimately win. He did it as well.
A Bengals defender did it yesterday.
Right.
On a pick six.
The fact that this is still happening and it happens once or twice a year in college or NFL is crazy because, Sean Payton will always tell us about all the situational stuff that they'll go through. There's 33 different scenarios or 40, like the number keeps growing.
55
yeah.
or 53.
But so, I was doing some digging behind the scenes, curious if like that's one of the things that comes up. And it's like such a simple thing that doesn't and I actually heard our pal Mike Sanford on his radio show when I was driving in said he was with a team one time that their culture was you hand the ball to the ref, because if you hand the ball to the ref, it's never going to be an issue. So if you hand it to the ref every single time, and mind you, that was college where you can't have this level of celebration and spiking the ball or anything anyway. But, that's what Barry Sanders did, and it worked pretty darn well for him.
But you just assume once you get to the NFL, these are things you know. And you don't want to have to teach basic arithmetic when you're like in algebra. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we have to go over this kind of stuff?
I mean, God forbid Nick Bonito jumps backwards and it jumps out of his arms before he lands to the ground.
Well, I mean, we're not going to.
I'm just saying.
Did you
sometimes
like that celebration?
No, it was the junk grab. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend.
Worth
Love it.
the 15-yard penalty.
As long as you make the kick, right?
Of course. I'm just saying, I think sometimes these celebrations, they're just kind of on this autopilot mode of just like feeling hyped and feeling excited that you just forget that there's still a job to complete. And I'm not saying Nick Bonito was close to that or anything, but some of the celebration dances, sometimes I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
2008.
You just worry.
Deshaun Jackson.
I was still playing.
You were. I told you.
That was my last
man.
season.
I think I watched it at.
Old man.
What were you, 3 years old in 2008?
In 2008, I was 10.
I think I watched it at Sports Column because we used to do Monday night shows there when I worked at the Fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was 10 years old in 2008.
And off air we were talking about Dominique Foxworth. He could come do the show with Mike Evans.
Yeah. And
we were talking about like, hey, you should get into this when you're like, trust me, guys, I do not want. He's like, no offense. He's like, I'll be doing bigger things than talking about football on radio or TV, and that's all.
He's doing that
all
now.
he does. And I reminded him when I was
Yeah.
like, I remember that.
But that interview and the clip we just saw was a cool, not cool, but an interesting glimpse into some of the psychology of this team and the way they fear Sean Payton. Marvin Mims kind of letting it slip that, like, number one, there's different treatment for different people, which
is normal.
Normal-ish.
But look, so Troy Franklin has a bad drop. He didn't play the rest of that game when he early in the year that was
in the end zone.
I don't know if that's happened with Mims, but Mims basically clarifying there that he's like punts are different. But if that happened as a receiver, I'd be done for the day. Whereas little Jordan Humphrey has a fumble, and you're like, is he done? Nope. Chandra,
Yeah.
So there are
because he's a
different levels.
Saints guy.
But with the rookie running backs or the young
he likes
running
his
backs,
Saints guys.
Yeah.
The Saints guys probably have a little bit of a longer rope when it comes to making
Troutman's
mistakes.
running that far
Well,
open.
because you could argue maybe that he's had more time to build trust with them.
Yeah.
So he knows how he can and can't speak to them and how they respond. And so, yeah, maybe that's just, I mean, there's a world where Marvin Mims in the next couple of seasons will
becomes the favorite
he'll be number
son.
one. Yeah. And he can make little mistakes and not get hounded.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt it, but.
Do you think that if Sean Payton was a coach of the Colts, that same play would have happened? Would Jonathan Taylor have done the same thing? Or was it a product of being on an inexperienced coaching staff? Because Shane Steichen is a first-year or second-year coach, right? So not a lot of skins on his wall, so to speak.
Things happen just because they're humans and they make mistakes. But I think when you fear the wrath, you're less likely to slip up or because I think what happened with Jonathan Taylor yesterday was simply just getting a little too comfortable, just letting it, throwing it back. Woo, I made it. And I think if Sean Payton were constantly in your ear, like if that ever happens, so help me, or you just know that he's the type of coach that would not be okay with that, you'll probably be a little more careful when you're crossing the goal line, holding on to it. Then you do your celebration. Then you grab your junk like Nick Bonito. Then
you save your junk grab.
Yeah,
for
junk
a little bit
grabs
later.
are cool and all, but like you better make sure that you've got the points on the board before you're grabbing the junk.
And to your point too, you talk about just a new coach culture. The Colts were penalized 8 times for 69 yards. Broncos 6 for 58. Let's take one penalty for the Bonito junk grab and 15 yards. It's only 40 yards of penalties.
Yeah.
It's just a more discipline and half the amount of penalties basically. And I think that you are right to some degree. In certain buildings, you just don't even think about it because you're like, I don't need to hear it. Like fear is a great motivator.
Yeah.
Very.
And Mike Shanahan had that sort of mystique about him. One of the worst things that you could ever do would be to be caught in the glare of Mike Shanahan after making a mistake. He's not a big man, but his presence was like Andre the Giant. And if you jumped off sides or some stupid penalty, that he would just stare at you and you'd shrink down into a tiny little.
Jonathan Taylor did. I don't know if we have any Jonathan Taylor sound, but
Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement.
Not different Jonathan Taylor, the running back, who did lead the NFL in rushing a couple years ago and is on a $42 million deal, but he owned all of the mistakes. You know,
he
nobody
did.
blame him.
And he said it'll never happen again.
Yeah, of course.
You better not.
No,
Right?
I'm sure.
It'll never happen again because he'll never play another snap.
Because he's done for.
Yeah, no, I think that's where the varying levels, if it happens to their second or third running back.
Yeah.
See, but
Sean Payton wouldn't.
Oh, I feel sad for him.
Sean Payton wouldn't cut him after that mistake. I don't think. I mean, right?
It's Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
I mean,
you just mentioned $42 million. He's not going to cut him.
now, if this was like a cocky little rookie that didn't
right. They don't have a running back.
That's
like
very
that.
different. Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's going anywhere. He is who he is. He's a fantastic player. This was just which almost makes it more painful.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you are a veteran. You are like one of the ones, and this just seems like something that like a young, inexperienced rookie would make, not a Jonathan Taylor, which makes it sting that much more. But I feel sad for him today. I just want to send him a little message.
He'll be okay. Again, he's got a $42 million
Yeah, you're right.
contract.
He's rich.
money
He's fine.
money is not a salve for the wounds of the present.
I'm
It's-
sorry,
He can go buy
Tommy.
himself a new car.
What the shit was that?
It's just not. Like people think, oh, he's rich, he'll be fine. No. It doesn't. The money you just
No,
can't.
of course not.
You can't put that over
Mo
your
money,
emotions.
mo problems.
You know what I mean? And in a lot of ways, it makes you more devastated because you believe that money should make you play better, should make you be a leader, should make you be the one who wins the game, not loses it.
Of
They were
course.
6-7 going into that game and needed it for their playoff aspirations. They lost. They're out. It's over. Their playoff hunt is over. They would have been 7-7. They would have gone up 13 points there. It would have been 20-7. How do you guys feel the Broncos' prospects would have been in that game had they gone down 20-7 at that point?
I had the conversation with the folks I was sitting around that because Anthony Richardson is such a wild card, I felt like he was going to keep him in the game. It was just you needed to see something get going with the offense, and you hadn't yet. So, was the
You
defense
thought
going to have
Anthony
to
Richardson was going to keep him in the game?
keep the Broncos in the
Oh,
game?
by being bad.
Yeah, by just being
Yeah,
a bad
yeah,
player,
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
the way Jameis does.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think it was the end of the world, but certainly it would have been difficult based on the Colts D was playing pretty well. Their zone defense was obviously creating a little bit of a challenge that Bo Nix was struggling with, but it didn't feel as dire as like when they were down 10-0 to the Raiders or whatever it was. And I was like, if they lose to this damn team, like they're in trouble. But it's a credit to them. The teams that they're better than this year, they've beaten. Like the teams that there's a clear cut better team on one side. They haven't lost any of those games. I'm not, they obviously outplayed the Chiefs or whatever, but the teams that they're better than, they beat.
I also think I'm still kind of on the Jonathan Taylor situation for just a second. Yes, it was a momentum shifter. I think after the Jonathan Taylor fumble at the 1 yard line or losing the ball, whatever. After that, the Broncos scored 24 unanswered
yeah.
points,
Yeah.
and they had a pick six in there.
Yeah.
Some big defensive plays. So yes, it was a momentum shifter for sure. But at the end of the day, the Broncos to me were simply the better team. They won by 18 points. So it's not like you can say this loss is all on Jonathan Taylor. It was not a great game by Anthony Richardson. Our defense showed that they were more superior. So it's a tough situation because he is the leader of this team and he should know better. And it probably does feel inexcusable to a lot of Colts fans. But at the end of the day, the Broncos were the better team and they won by 18. It's not like that one touchdown was the difference between them winning and losing. It was a momentum shifter. 24 unanswered points after that and some huge defensive plays, one of which was a pick six. Yes, it changed the momentum. And yes, it's inexcusable when you're a Jonathan Taylor and you're a veteran and you're the leader of this team. But I'm not sure Jonathan Taylor is the reason the Colts are not a playoff team, So that's where it gets tough. It's kind of depends on who you ask.
Well said. The Broncos started off slow again in that game.
Oh my God.
They continue to have a negative point differential in the first quarter and then positive second, third, and fourth. They're coming out of the gate slow. Some of that is because they like to defer when they win the kick. And so they're not, the other team's receiving the ball. So they oftentimes will get an extra possession in that first quarter. So more chances to score. But that doesn't, change the fact that the Colts took the ball and drove right down the field and scored a touchdown.
Yeah. It looked pretty. It was a little nerve-wracking to see that early.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the first Raiders game at home.
Yeah.
Where it's like very quick play
yeah.
right off the bat, and you're kind of like, and then again, a pick 6 from our defense to change the momentum. I mean, this was like copy-paste Raiders vibes where you're like, we should win this game. We're better than this team. But the Raiders and the Colts, big play to start the game. And it's like, we kind of had a hard time bouncing back from that until the second half. And it just feels like they do that a lot. It almost makes me want to start watching the Broncos during the third quarter, because that's where I feel like I'm actually going to see some really good football.
Did you see where Shane Steichen defended the play call on the double pass, saying it worked in practice?
Oh,
it's like, well,
you didn't have Nick Bonito.
Nick Bonito, PS2 of those guys on the practice field.
Quick question, really quick before we move on from the offense stuff. Do you guys, either one of you, do you guys feel like Bo Nix ruined his chances of Offensive Rookie of the Year with that game yesterday? I think you could argue both sides of it.
I think it's going to be how these last 3 go, because if Jaden Daniels has a bad game next week and Bo has a really good one, it changes. It's like a week-to-week conversation.
And Bo's got some tough competitors that if he goes toe-to-toe with Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes, he's putting himself in a pretty good spot.
And the Broncos game this week's on national TV.
Yeah.
I believe and Sean Payton talked about it in his conference call today. He thinks, and I had heard this the other day, they're going to play that Saturday the 28th, same day, maybe same time, because there's 3 games on Saturday the 28th in Cincy, same time the Buffs are playing in the bowl game.
Wow.
But there's it's like a 2:15, 2:30 kick, one in between that and then a night one. But that'll be a standalone game on a Saturday that everyone will get to see Bo play against, like you said, Joe Burrow, go toe to toe. So 2 chances at national TV, and then that Chiefs game, depending on what they do in the last couple of weeks, could still matter for their playoff seeding.
Yeah,
you kind of sound like Batman right now.
Like Christian Bale or Will Arnett as Lego
Christian
Batman.
Bale one, like as the movie goes on, he gets more raspy and like, I need a lozenge.
Do you guys
think
Bo Nix ruined his chances of Offensive Rookie?
The Dark Knight, that is a cool nickname.
Dark Knight, yeah.
That's my man. He's the Dark Knight.
That's my man? Is that what you just said?
That's my buddy. Okay, that's my guy.
That's my
The
guy.
Dark
Hey,
Knight.
hey, my guy. So the Broncos, like, I just want to kind of touch on the momentum and the way that game went a little bit, because coming out slow, because they scored, the Colts scored a touchdown opening drive. Broncos throw a pick in their first drive. 7 plays, 32 yards, throw an interception. Colts go right down the field and score to make it 10-0. Broncos get the ball back, 5 plays, 5 yards, punt. And then the Colts punt, but the Broncos are able to score a touchdown on a 9-play drive there in the first half. But then the next drive they have punt, the next one punt, and then 1 play into half. So they went into the halftime with really, like, I don't know, 40, 50 yards of offense. They didn't end with a lot either. I mean, they only had 13 first downs, 121 yards passing, 72 yards rushing, under 200 total yards, and still scored 31 points. But so you talk about the momentum shift and stuff. And it wasn't really till the end of the third quarter that they actually figured out how to score again. First drive out of the gate in the second half, they get the ball back, 3 plays, 14 yards, another interception. It's like, oh. And that's when the fumble happened right after that. 2 plays, 61 yards, fumble. Broncos get the ball back, but they didn't score right away. It was another punt. And then a punt by the Colts, and then the Broncos get the ball back and another interception. And that's when it was like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, but then the defense, that's when I saw the defense picking up Bo, like, come on, you got it. And that's when things, sort of started to change after that. The Broncos were able to get a field goal with 1:56 seconds left in the third quarter. And then after that, it was pretty much on. But I do want to talk about that pick 6, that Nick Bonito jump grab.
Fumble recovery.
Yeah, and that play you talked about that Shane Steichen said worked in practice. The guy who threw that interception, what is his name?
Adonai Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell had this to say about that play.
Shane came over, talked to me, and said if it's not there, throw it away. So if you kind of look from my perspective, it was there pretty much until 15 just turned to Ed Reed and just came through out of nowhere. So, I mean, it was a great play by him. So we just got to execute it better.
You repped it a lot in practice, I assume. And what was your confidence level about it?
I'm always confident.
Because it had worked in practice, you're saying?
And then you see a play like Ed Reed. I mean, looking back, do you feel like you could have had a chance to maybe throw it quicker? Or is there not a way to get around it?
I executed the play call. You made a good play.
you guys had a lot of opportunities, and you handed a lot of opportunities to the Broncos as well. What's the level of frustration knowing you had a chance to win this game here?
Well, I mean, nobody really liked losing. I mean, we all in it to win it, so yeah, not really happy.
Eddie, did you have a conversation with Shane about the play call execution at all afterwards, or that's just gonna come later on?
It'll come when it comes.
Just in terms of mistakes today, you guys, not just yourself, just in general, the team, a lot of penalties, a lot of just missed opportunities. What do you think was behind that?
Got to play better. Sure.
Eddie, do you think that play was, I guess, detrimental to your playoff hopes, or I guess in the moment, do you feel the weight of that play or no?
Not for real. I mean, so I executed. I saw it. He was open. I threw it. Turned out he wasn't open. I don't know where 15 came from, but I ain't seen.
Where'd he come from? Yeah, he came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but
turned into Ed Reed.
That's what happens when you're up against Nick Bonito, I guess.
And Bonito talked about it a couple times post game because he did some national interviews. Was obviously interviewed by local media in his locker too, and said that he's like, "Oh, I just saw AR kind of standing there leaking out." He's like, "So I thought something might be up," because he obviously knows he can't make the play.
AR.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson.
Oh, okay.
They're on a nickname basis.
I guess they are.
Is he your man?
That's
Is
his
he
man.
your guy?
That's my man.
Yeah, I don't know, but Nick Bonito saw him leaking out and then turned into Ed Reed.
I mean, Nick Bonito, let's just be 100%. Let's just get to the point here. Nick Bonito is making a very excellent case for Defensive Player of the Year. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that because what about the Chargers defense? What about the Eagles defense? Don't care. The Broncos maybe have the best defense in the league right now. And fight with the wall. Nick Bonito. What? How many sacks does he have on the year?
11 and a half, 12.
11 and a half / 12. How many pick sixes?
2.
2.
I think that's probably the most in the league. Does anyone else
Thank
have
you.
2
Come
pick sixes?
on. He is making a case,
I
folks.
don't know if anybody else does that.
Fight with the
'Cause that
wall.
wasn't, so it's defensive touchdowns because it wasn't an interception.
I actually want to know what
Oh,
his
is it
odds
backwards
are
pass?
right now.
Oh.
Do we know what his odds are for Defensive Player of the Year? He's probably climbing up there.
He should be.
Season
And
awards.
I don't know if Myles Garrett finished the game yesterday, but he was banged up. Daniil Hunter's jumped ahead of him. So
Plus 900.
he
Wow.
and TJ Watt. He and TJ Watt are sitting at 11 and a half. Daniil Hunter has 12, and Trey Hendrickson has 12 and a half.
Actually, Pat Surtain right now is still above Nick Bonito in the sports book.
They-
Well, he did have a pick yesterday as well.
They might split votes. And Pat's dealing with an ankle injury. You could see him walking in the locker room. Okay, it's a low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain. I think there's a chance he could play Thursday. His dad tweeted
he might not play Thursday.
His dad tweeted he has Nolia blood, so he's built different because the whole Surtain family's from New Orleans.
Perfect.
So we'll see how much
Okay,
that helps.
you're watching me do it. $25 on Nick Bonito at plus 900 to win Defensive Player of the Year, to win $225 if it hits. I just placed it.
She has
Done.
over $30,000 in her FanDuel account.
I don't.
She's
It-
that good at betting.
409 is what it says. He's
So
ridiculous.
The rest is in savings.
The rest is in savings. Yeah.
She put it in
Okay, I
stocks
just
and
bet
bonds.
it. Nick Bonito, Defensive Player of the Year, plus 900. I bet you anything by the end of the season, that number is going to be closer to like plus 230.
I know this. My Saquon Barkley MVP bets took a hit yesterday.
Is Nick Bonito the defensive MVP on this team?
It's tough because every week we've got a new player that's proven that our defense. The reason that our defense is so great is because they are all great, and that's what makes it really fun to watch. But I will say, I think Nick Bonito, I would give the last 2 wins by the Broncos. I think Nick Bonito has been a huge part in that. He's been an X factor for sure. I think
Speaking
our
of-
defense is great, but
Speaking of X factors, how would you like to get through the holidays without having to make your mortgage payment? How does that sound? Sounds pretty good to me. We'll go to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you refinance your home and not have to make any payments until February. That's right, February. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. And right now, they'll cover the cost of your appraisal, which is a $650 value, guys, and they'll cover that cost. So go to trustedamerican.com or scan that QR code. Do you see it? You might not. We'll find it.
you'll see it in
And
a second.
as we search for it, think about trustedamerican.com. So scan that QR code right there.
They just wanted an excuse to flex right there. Welcome to the gun show.
Scan that QR code on the screen to see how much money they can save you today.
Bangers.
All right. back to the
X Factor. Thank you for that. But yes, I think this Broncos defense is elite in so many ways. You could argue, smart football watchers would argue that the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league right now.
You can make that case.
Only haters would disagree. Nick Bonito on this defense.
Even though they gave up 150 yards on the ground to the Colts.
Can't be perfect, Nate.
That's true. You can't. They make the big plays, and they held him out of the end zone in the second half completely. 0 points.
Zero passing touchdowns.
I'm not saying this is a perfect defense, but to me, our defense is able to not only make big stops, but also put points on the board. I mean, they're playing really hard, and they're cutting our offense some breaks when they need it. But yeah, I think that the Broncos defense right now is one of the best in the league. And I think the reason that I would give Defensive Player of the Year to Nick Bonito is that because they are one of the best defense in the league, and he is also an X factor on that defense and has been in more games than one. You could argue some of the wins the Broncos have had this season, he has been responsible.
Reason, right?
He's been the reason. So
game-changing plays.
Game-changing plays.
Or gap plays. Who called them that? Game-altering plays. And some people call them gap plays.
Who are some people?
Like John Gruden called them that.
Batman.
John Gruden called it
Your man's
gap plays, game-altering plays.
Now he's got to look it up. Look what you've done, Nate.
Called it.
Next time, don't ask. Don't ask who said it.
Do you do this like with your wife in like every conversation? Just like let me look it up.
I pick my spots.
Which means every time, for sure. Without a doubt.
No, but Nick Bonito, the plays he's made have been huge plays for the team.
Huge.
That pick six he had when he stepped in front of, which game was that?
The Browns.
Was it?
Yeah, he said them back-to-back games.
Yeah.
They needed that one big time. And
game-changing
and his sacks
play.
have been big play. Remember the strip sack fumble at the end of that one game? Who was that against?
That was against the Bears, Justin Fields last year. That was where
No, he had a strip sack this season
to
end a game.
Oh, but he also did last year against Justin Fields.
Yeah, so he makes very timely plays. Like
there's that.
It's not like garbage time.
They're important.
Like,
They're very. I'm not saying that they're not all important plays, but he really is like single-handedly, like, I think, controlling the outcome of how these games end in a positive way for the Broncos. So
it's come up now. It's come up a couple times, and we've talked about when his deal is up. They can't even sign him to a new deal until the season officially ends. They don't have to rush to do it. They can go all the way through next year. But other than Nick Bosa, which again, I'm still surprised that he's making $6 million more than the rest of the group of pass rushers. But TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Brian Burns, those guys, they all make around $28 million, a little more than that. Nick Bonito is going to be right there, and it might be 29 or 30 by the time they do that deal. And I think it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And the Broncos have shown that they'll set the market. Von Miller was the highest paid ever, defensive player. PS2, highest paid ever. And Justin Simmons was close to top, definitely top of the market. And DT, when, within an hour of Des Bryant signing his deal, Demaryius Thomas had a brand new deal that was almost identical. It was like $50,000 less or something.
could you guys imagine? Okay, this would actually be the sickest thing in the world. Could you imagine? You've got Nathan McKinnon with the Hart Memorial Trophy. You've got Nikola Jokic as an MVP. You've got Travis Hunter as a Heisman winner. Could you imagine Offensive Rookie of the Year, Bo Nix, Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bonito? Colorado's taking the FO.
Best
deal with it.
town in the country.
And DU won a national
just saying.
championship last year.
Yeah.
Hockey.
I mean,
Soccer team lost in the finals.
I'm talking about like season awards for players.
Yeah,
That
that's
would be
cool.
pretty insane to almost like clean sweep everything. That would be fantastic.
Maybe Zeke Tovar takes a big step in baseball next year. Ezekiel, shortstop.
Okay.
Alrighty. And on that note,
I do want to mention this though. At the game yesterday, over 76,000 people came.
Good crowd.
A really good crowd.
I looked up and I was like, oh, those seats are filled.
Exactly. And that
That's
hasn't happened in a
awesome. That's
long,
so
long
awesome.
time. A lot of people were saying this game was the biggest home game since 2015. You can make a case for a few others, I'm sure. But what I've noticed over the last, and this was something when I was a player, I always, paid attention to, because they used to have like at the end of the game, they'd have, you could guess what the attendance was. They'd have like A, B, or C.
Yeah.
And it would always be like, 75,000 something, 76. But over the last like 5-6 years, when the Broncos haven't been good, there's been 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 no-shows, like 70,000, maybe 69, maybe 72. But
tickets selling for like $10 in the nosebleeds because nobody wanted to go.
But what's funny is people will boo when they show the attendance. And I'm like, those people aren't even here to hear you.
no, I know.
Booing them.
But they do the no-shows like 8, but it was only like 700 something no
It was
shows, which
impressive.
is really good because not everybody's going to show up. Somebody's going to get sick or whatever. But I was just heartened by the fact there was over 76. When there's over 76, I think capacity is like 76. We had this discussion
Yeah,
before.
76 and change.
Yeah, you
76
were wrong, and I was right. You had to look it up, and then it proved that.
It is.
But anyway,
didn't forget.
No, I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But over 76,000 people, they're really, and we're treated to a really good game. The energy of the Broncos in the second half, being able to figure out a way to win, is pretty impressive for such a young team. But I do want to talk about something the Broncos didn't do very well at all yesterday.
Run the ball.
Run the football.
Dang, nabbit, mother flipper.
Bo Nix was the leading rusher with 23 yards.
It's unacceptable.
Jaleel McLaughlin, 7 carries
It's unacceptable.
for 21 yards. Javonte continues to kind of underwhelm back there. 6 carries for 15 yards. Audric Estime, who got some carries late, 5 carries for 13 yards. I mean, that's, take away Bo's 23 yards. That's under 50 yards from your running back.
How much of it is on the backs or the backs and the O-line, and how much of it is on Sean Payton for not staying committed to run call?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it's on Sean. I mean, he came out, he gets interviewed at halftime, and he's like, we got to commit to running the football more. And then he comes out
right
and
out of halftime.
3, interception. Like,
okay, Sean.
Okay, Sean. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sean, what was that?
So how much of that is because you don't become an offensive genius head coach by committing to the run? I mean, there is an element of the wide zone running game, but really it's Sean Payton's history as a pass-happy offensive coordinator who put up records through the air that I think is going to contribute to his philosophy offensively. Do you think it's his ego getting in the way of of committing to the run?
A little bit, which fine.
Is that fine? Why is it fine?
Because
they're
we
9
won.
and 5.
Because we won. Right. We're winning games. Now, if this was a losing, if the Broncos currently had a losing record, and Sean Payton had that little bit of ego that wasn't allowing him to commit to the run, I'd be feeling a little differently about his ego getting in the way. I think he is a pass-happy coach, which is fine when we win. Now, the best way to set up a rookie quarterback for success is to have a reliable run game. The Broncos don't have that. So in situations like yesterday, when you have Bo Nix that's turning the ball over 3 times, you need to have a run game that you can say, hey, Bo, you're good. Take a breath. Let's commit to the run right here. Sean Payton at halftime says, we got to commit to the run better. Comes out of halftime, throwing the ball like crazy. It's another turnover. So I do think there's some ego involved there. Now, they do have a winning record, so I feel like I can't really complain too much about it. But I do think, especially in the playoffs, we got to be better about running the ball.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah.
Have to. I mean, Bo Nix can't be your leading rusher with under 30 yards. That's just absurd.
So who should be the lead back? Because yesterday it was Jaleel. Jaleel started off
Sean
back
Payton
there.
claimed it was Audric Estime for a minute, and I haven't seen anything.
Day, yeah, he had a
He's
good
like, I
game.
want to see more from him. Yeah, he does have a good game. And then the next game, Javonte Williams has a really good game. Sean continues.
It's almost like he does that just to spite everybody who wants to see more of it. It's like, no.
Correct.
Nope. I'll tell you.
Remember
when
what
he's
I
ready.
told you? When he said Audric Estime, we want to see more out of him. That's our guy, whatever. I bet on Javonte Williams anytime touchdown score, and it cashed. Because I knew he was.
Look at
I
you
knew he was
inside
being,
the mind of Sean
he was
Payton.
being phony
But
baloney.
based on what we've seen lately, Jaleel feels the safest because they're just trying to find ways to use him. If you're going to make that bet, I was having this conversation with our pal Josh Dover in the press box because he had an estimate and he had a time touchdown. I'm like, why? Like, what has indicated that he was going to get that? If anything, because Jaleel had that good game, he thought, okay, maybe they find a way to use him and how much they throw it. Like, I wouldn't bet any of them to score an anytime touchdown right now because Michael Burton.
This was weeks ago. I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah,
and they go shotgun inside the 5. Like it's rare that they just kind of put in a jumbo package and go downhill and just commit to running the football.
It'll be curious to see what we get from the Chargers Thursday defensively because they were great against the run through a good portion of the year. Certainly shut the Broncos run game down here. Bucky Irving had 117 yards on 15 carries. I get 54 of those was on 1. And then Rashad White added another 64. And then Baker scrambled twice for 25. But when you've got your 2 backs going for 175 yards, 180 yards, if the Broncos can come just break 100, clearly the Chargers run defense, there's some vulnerabilities that if Liam Cohen and the Bucks could see, Sean Payton and his staff will certainly see the opportunities there as well.
What's the early line? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say it's very interesting to me that in December, We're still trying to figure out how to use our running backs. It's like,
Yeah.
this should be established. This should not be something that we're experimenting mid-game. How are we going to use Jaleel more? How are we going to use Javonte? Let's get Audric Estime used more. It's like,
Let's throw Mims in there.
this should be established at this point in the season. So to me, it feels like the running back situation and the lack of run game and Sean Payton's inability to commit to the run is not a this season issue to fix. Like we're winning. We've got a winning record. This is a playoff team. They're really making a good push here. Bo Nix has gotten more comfortable in the pocket. He's throwing the ball better. Yes, I would love to see Javonte Williams breaking some tackles like he did in New Orleans. That was his best game, in my opinion, and he looked really great. I would love to see that more, but to me, this whole like experimenting who's our lead running back, like that should have been established by now. It's freaking December.
And does that
It's
tell
almost freaking Christmas, for crying out loud.
If you say so.
Are you excited about Christmas?
Yeah, I can't wait for that jolly old fat man to come down the
What,
chimney.
I heard you say something about.
I can't freaking
I
wait.
heard you say something about what gift you're going to get for every man in your life. So what are we getting?
Yeah. What?
I'm gonna get you some cough drops.
Right.
And no, I don't know. I will get you guys something.
No, but I heard you say that upstairs. What was the gift? Or
I can't announce
watching?
it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give the gift away to the people that may be watching.
Yeah.
I want to know what we were getting. But
Well, then you
And
don't
why
have
would I
to
tell
wait.
you that
You don't have
either?
to wait,
I don't
bro.
know.
That totally
You
ruins the
announced it.
surprise.
Nate's getting you that bag you wanted.
Perfect. Can't wait.
The line for the Broncos Chargers opened at 3.5. It is now Chargers 3-point favorites across the board on every.
And that's basically a wash, right? Because you get 3 from being at home.
Sort of. I don't know if that applies to the Chargers and Raiders, because especially the Chargers.
Yeah, because they don't really get home field advantage.
No,
do they?
the most popular team in LA is the Raiders.
the
Second most is the Niners. Third most is probably the Broncos or Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Rams are probably 4th or 5th, and the Chargers are like 30th.
Well, before we move off this game, I do want to give props to 2 tight ends who got in the end zone.
Yeah.
Adam Troutman on a really nice play design, wide open down the seam. BK pointing out that he wasn't even the most open guy on that play.
No.
So actually, Bo Nix screwed up by throwing it to him. Should have thrown it to who?
Number 14, Cortland Sutton was even more open. Bo missed a couple yesterday. I know he said
He
that
did.
clip we played that he saw it, and the one down to Cortland that got knocked around in the end zone. You had 2 guys open on the backside.
Sutton
there.
had a drop in there though that was pretty.
Yeah.
The one that was
Yeah,
they
no,
were
he
trying to
had-
get the first down. I was like, you gotta get.
And I asked Bo about that post game. I'm like, hey, when you're not having your best game, what are your conversations? He's like, I can't say anything.
Yeah.
But
yeah. He's like, what am I going to say? I'm
yeah,
screwing up too. Like,
I think over time, and that's where having him being, mature beyond his years in the league, and a vet like Cortland Sutton, they can have a dialogue as it goes on and on. I just go back to thinking about the clip of Peyton Manning yelling at Jeff Saturday. Like, Bo Nix will get there where even on a day where he has 3 picks, he's going to be like, well, I've got 6 Pro Bowls. And, like, he'll be able to yell at everybody even when he's having an off day.
I don't know if that's
Oh,
his style
perfect. So
either,
he's
though.
going to turn into
I
Aaron
just don't know.
Rodgers.
Yeah,
Don't want it.
No, not
Don't
yell,
want
but
it.
like, hey, come on, you got to pick me up there. Like, I threw you a catchable ball. I'm sorry that I've thrown 3 times to the other team, but you got to help us out there. You got to make that catch.
But I also think what makes Bo so special is that he just takes accountability.
Yeah, he's like,
even
I'll
if
put
he
it-
knows he's not alone in the mistakes that were made, he's like, I got it.
Yeah.
I already said yesterday on the post-game show that the film Aaron Rodgers should be watching all week is Bo Nix's post-game pressers. Learn some accountability.
Aaron Rodgers found a way to get it done yesterday.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, the Jets are improving to 4-10.
I will not applaud a fish for swimming.
After calling out all the
Come on.
ESPN
Aaron Rodgers,
personalities.
is he not him? Do we not spend all of our time as not us, but media praising this man like he's God? Like I would hope he could win a football game.
Yeah.
On a
It is a
Sunday.
4.
That's
It was
who
a
he
bad opponent
is.
too. Who'd they play?
Jacksonville.
The
The second string quarterback's in there. I mean, for
Yeah.
God's sake, I would hope he could win.
Former number 1 pick,
Yeah.
first round pick.
Okay,
Mac
we know
Jones.
that. Come on.
Yeah.
That doesn't always translate.
You
Unfortunately.
had 2 first round picks going head to head.
Other tight end got in the end zone, Nate Atkins.
That
Nate
play
Atkins-
works every time. Run that
Yeah,
play.
the same play that he walked in the end zone last time. He had to make a move though, and he made a nice spin move.
He
Yeah.
did.
There, Nate Atkins, jack of all trades.
What-
Love that dude. He's a valuable asset to this team. You don't really see what he does, but he's always blocking. He's on special
Mhm.
teams. He can play fullback, tight end. So great to get him the
He's
ball.
a
sometimes.
quiet leader
He
on
is.
our offense,
Yeah.
which I love.
So I had a conversation yesterday with Dan Graziano, happened to be here from ESPN. They sent him to cover the game. And Dan is a national reporter that isn't the news breaker that Adam Schefter, and he's on Get Up a lot with Greenberg and on NFL Live and stuff. But so he's just a straight reporter. So he's not necessarily an information broker. And he put out a list last week of the best head coaching candidates. He had Vrabel 1, he had Belichick 2. That's before he took that job. He had Ben Johnson 3. I can't remember who he had 4, but then he had Brian Flores 5, and he had VJ 6th. And I've seen some lists that have Brian Flores up there, and we'll see what the Vikings defense does tonight. But if I'm an owner, and this is a 2-part thing that I'm going to get to, but if I'm an owner and I'm going to interview Vance Joseph or Brian Flores, who's got 2 of the best defenses, well, one coach is in the middle of an active lawsuit against NFL owners, and the other just got dealt a bad hand in Denver.
Yeah.
And then depending on who you ask, was pretty intricate in the day-to-day stuff with Arizona, with Cliff Kingsbury. And then there's obviously been a really good coordinator here. So, let's just play it out. Vance Joseph gets a head job. Is he going out of his way with his GM to find Michael Burton, Nate Atkins, those kind of Swiss Army knife guys that aren't your top of the roster guys, but fill out your team and can do 9 things?
Right.
Do you think that that's like, does VJ take that of anything he's going to take from Sean?
Well, I don't know if Sean's the guy who does that, though. Isn't it George Payton's job to look for those guys?
I think it's his job to look for him, but I think it's Sean's job to say, yeah, let's. I want. Burton.
Yeah,
played for
that would
Sean.
depend on who your offense coordinator is going to be,
Sure,
and their experience and their ability to spot guys like that. I think Sean Payton has a very clear picture in his mind of the type of players that he wants, the type of guys that round out the offense, the type of guys who work hard every play and do their jobs, and aren't going to be the guys who are catching the football all the time, but the guys who are executing the offense and doing their jobs and opening things up for others. But one more guy I want to throw flowers to, your boy Brandon Jones, Liv.
Another
nice
big
interception, led the team in
He's
tackles.
awesome. He's
Is he
crushing
playing
it.
better than Justin Simmons played here?
I think you can make a case for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And this is his
no
first
knock
year.
against Justin Simmons, who's a
No,
fantastic
gosh,
player,
we love
all
Justin
pro
Simmons.
player. But Brandon Jones is playing at like a Pro Bowl level right now.
He is. It's really, really, really fun to watch him
All
play
over the
right now.
field, making big tackles. I will say that his socks keep falling down, and
Oh, so you have to be Karen on him.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
he's
I
sick of you.
No, he doesn't know, because unless the league actually finds him, like maybe the equipment manager Flip tells him like, hey, pull, but ultimately, like,
tell his
unless he
wife?
gets hit in the
Maybe
pocketbook.
he needs tighter socks.
Or waiters.
Well, no, he pulls his pants up and then his socks come down, his knees are showing and all that, and that's
Nobody
I
wants
got to
to see
write
his
that down.
kneecaps.
I got to write it down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So
No kneecap showing?
no, you're not supposed to have your knees showing. No.
Was there rules against wearing like big chains?
Yeah, it's
I've
not supposed to
always
come
wa-
out of the.
Sometimes they're like I can understand just like a little something, like a
Really?
little tennis.
Like, why are we wearing jewelry on the field?
Yeah, I think it's probably
But
good
there's
luck.
some that are like chunky, and I'm
Yeah.
like, why would you want? To
Especially
have
after
Aqib Talib? Have we learned nothing?
Crabtree.
Yeah.
I know you love Pro Football Focus. Nate, the highest graded PFF players yesterday. Nick Bonito, 92.2 rating.
Yeah.
Brandon,
Duh. Like that's why PFF is so lame. They put a percentage on something that's obvious. We all see it.
Brandon
he
Jones.
kicked ass, and you're gonna say, no,
Brandon Jones, 92.0.
Yep, obvious. Could have told you that.
Bo Nix, 90. No, I'm just kidding. Bo Nix is
Yeah,
fine.
exactly.
Nate Atkins, 85.9. Mike McGlinchey, 81.3. And then Chris Abrams-Drain, who's a guy we haven't talked about.
How do they grade him that fast?
They have an analyst assigned all 32 teams, and they go through the film and go through the film.
Yeah, already.
Well, I mean, the game happened yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been,
So they're
18
breezing
hours.
through it. They're clearly not working.
I don't know how
He's
long
not
it
a
take.
fan, by the way.
How long does it take coaches to
Well,
grade?
they're doing every. They're doing.
No. They have 32 analysts.
32 dorks.
Sure, but I'm just saying they don't have one guy that has the whole AFC West.
Weasels.
They don't know that. They don't know the play calls. They don't know their actual assignments. It's,
right,
it's a
that's-
guesswork thing. But it's like, oh, the guy who's looked good, we'll give him a high grade. The guy who didn't, we won't. And they get a bunch of money to do that, which I think is silly. But I want to shift gears from pro football to college football. Oh,
Talk
CU
Army
gold.
Navy. No.
Yeah, the president elect and his crew were at the Army Navy game.
It was not the best attendance.
Was
I
it
saw-
not?
I saw some wide shots. That was kind of a bummer.
Oh, really?
I went to that game once in Philly.
Where was it? It was in Philly?
It was DC this time.
I was in DC. I went in Philly. I went in New York. It was.
It's cool, right?
Yeah.
The pageantry of the Army Navy game is really cool.
Yeah. But no, Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner, the highest award in the land. CU Boulder, bringing it home for the second or third time ever?
Second, he and Rashawn Salam, 30
Rashawn
years
Salam,
apart.
30 years ago. But Travis Hunter, can you guys talk a little bit about what Travis Hunter has done?
I just think, first of all, I know this is separate from him winning the Heisman, but he's a very, very likable guy. Like, he's just very humble, always smiling, always excited. And I just think that was one thing I struggled with, actually. I know that, many will argue that TCU making it to the championship was kind of whatever, it could have been a better game if there was somebody else in there. But Max Duggan, one of the reasons I think so many people were rooting for him that year to win the Heisman is because of his character. And I think that the Heisman does represent more than just your talent. It's an honorable award. And so when Caleb Williams got it after writing FU on his nails, it was kind of like, oh God, really? Did we need to do all that? And I just think Travis Hunter, and I'm not saying that Genty is not that way. I don't know enough about him, but I will say Travis Hunter, a lot of players in his position who are playing two positions and are under Coach Prime and their team's getting all this attention and rappers are walking out of the tunnel with them. I think you see a lot of athletes take that and become
goes to their head.
Yeah, goes to their head. They become less humble.
Well, not Travis. He didn't even know who Lil Wayne was.
But I think that's what I love about him. I love that he's streaming in footy pajamas, playing video games, just living his best life. And
so why is he the product of so much controversy and hate online? There's so much there's people attacking him, his girlfriend. Like he has.
Oh, well, the girlfriend.
It's been a very polarizing Heisman race, right? And
I do think the girlfriend needs to maybe button up just a tiny little bit. I'm not saying people should be speaking on their relationship because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but there have been the most recent video that I've seen now. I was like, girl, you've got to get this together because this is only the beginning for this man. He's going to be around people. They will be women, by the way. This is the start of a very long and successful career, we hope, for Travis Hunter. And for her to be sitting at a paid event, an Adidas event in New York City, he just got named the Heisman winner, and she's sitting on the couch, and you can actually hear her say, so what, am I just supposed to sit here all day? Yeah, you are. You're the plus one here. This is not about you. So unless you can sit there and enjoy what he's doing and be supportive of him, then don't go. Stay at home. So there are things that, and I can imagine it's going to be a very difficult transition from this player that was just playing for Coach Prime. And now all of a sudden he's known everywhere. You know the name. That's a household name, Travis Hunter, you know who that is. And I would imagine it's probably caused some issues in their relationship. That is completely normal and completely expected. But for her to be sitting all sour, sulking in the couch, and then getting caught on camera when he's taking pictures with fans for a paid event. This is his job. Yep. This is his job now. It's not just about throwing. It's
making him a lot of money.
It's not just about catching the football now. Like, he's going to be somebody that's going to have to go to appearances and have to take pictures with people and sign autographs and do all these different things. And if she can't sit back and enjoy the ride, then she needs to jump off the ship because it's only going to get worse from here. So I do think the scrutiny, people speaking on their relationship, we only know this much of it. We know what we've seen on clips and whatever. But I think in this Heisman weekend, she's had 2 moments now that have been caught on camera that people are dissecting, and it's looking like, and then people go all the way back to, she has come out and said that when he first was reaching out to her, she didn't want anything to do with him because he's not really her type. And so now people are like, oh, you've got a tattoo of a money sign on your ring finger. And now all of a sudden you want to be with him, but then you have this bad attitude.
Right.
Again, not for us to dissect. It's not our business, but I have seen some clips of her that I'm like, girl, it's not going to get any easier. It's only going to get worse when this man is a household name on the professional level. So if you can't handle that, you got to get to stepping, because he shouldn't dim his sparkle because you can't handle it.
Don't dim your sparkle.
Don't dim it, Travis.
And it would be a shame for him to have to deal with this sort of off the field energy while he's trying to focus on what's coming next.
Guy. Yeah. So she should be right alongside him, smiling, fist bumping.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and say, what am I supposed to do? Just sit here? Correct. Or walk and get a street hot dog.
Maybe you should be her coach, like the wives and girlfriends coach who can help them through, because it's difficult on the ladies.
Has to be. And I have to tell you, that is one of the reasons why I have, from the time that I was young, I always was like, it was very annoying for the longest time of I don't need no man, that was kind of my attitude when I was, single and just grinding in my work. But that was mostly because I do think it's important for these wives of these NFL players, because so much of their lives are going to be about their husbands. It's going to be about Travis all the time, especially when he's in season. Girl, go do something for yourself. Go do something that is yours. Go enjoy. You don't want to always feel like his little counterpart. Go either start a business or do what you got to do. And she is on social media, and I have seen a few of her videos, and she seems like she's a really awesome, fun girl. I don't know her personally, but you don't want to always.
She's young. What does she really know what she wants to do yet?
Probably not. But this would be a great time for her to figure that out. You don't want to always be the girl that's sitting on the couch waiting for him to finish his event. You know, you want him to be at your events too. So like,
start a clothing line.
Go boss up. Yeah, like she was wearing some cute game day fits. She could probably have a whole game day line, and people would buy it. You know, and again, maybe she doesn't want to do any of that, and she wants to be his counterpart. But if you're gonna do that, have a good attitude, be supportive, be excited for him, because again, this is just scratching the surface of Travis Hunter being at paid events and taking pictures.
Well, I just think about what his life's going to be like from Saturday or last week when he's getting all those awards.
Mm-hmm.
The bowl game's going to be what it's going to be, but it comes up pretty quick. There's no playoffs. And then December 29th, they get back from that bowl game, and he is into full draft prep now.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter didn't have to do a damn thing at the combine other than height and weight and medical testing and interviews.
Yeah.
But Super Bowl week, I mean, he already has a new deal with Buffalo Wild Wings that I saw pop up today, the Travis Hunter special. It's a bunch of wings and chicken tenders and all this. It's going to be nonstop from now until draft night. And then he's going to go.
Well, the challenge will be for him to kind of decide how much of energy to pay to that stuff. And you got to stay focused because you're not there yet. I mean, you're not at all where you want to be. You want to be now. You want to be the best player in the history of the NFL, right? You want to do what you did in college in the NFL. And so those interviews that are going to happen at the combine are going to be really important because every team's going to ask him, "What do you want to do? What role are you looking for? And then would you be willing to have this role or that role or that role?" And the way he answers that question could determine his fate.
He had a Heisman party that we saw where apparently he flew 50 of his teammates there to New York. They had that down in the kind of financial district or fish market down where ESPN does their shows, is where the party was, the tip of the island basically. So, but they all came back, and he's on streaming last night playing video games. Like,
yeah, he's back.
But we know who this kid. We kind of have a sense of who he is. We know he likes to fish. We know he likes to play video games and stream.
Yeah.
And he loves playing football. But because he is already in an established relationship, he's probably not out partying trying to find all the girls like we know some certainly athletes and celebrities have or whatever. So, you know, Super Bowl week's kind of everything on steroids with the amount of opportunities that you have. But he can pick and choose his spots. Also, he has a bunch of money because of NIL.
Yeah.
So these kids don't have to do as many things as they did when they were coming out. It was like, okay, my agent's giving me a loan that I have to pay back.
Right.
Second I sign my deal. Oh, Sharpie wants to pay me to walk around the Super Bowl, or Buffalo Wild Wings wants me to walk around the Super Bowl for $5,000. I'll take it. Versus now,
well,
they also made a couples video talking about the rules they have in their relationship.
Oh, I
and he
didn't
was
see
like
that.
taking off her makeup.
Was it good?
It was fine because I think the boundaries are important in relationships, and especially when you're dating someone of the caliber of Travis Hunter, you do have to have boundaries in place so that things don't get out of hand. One of them was we don't fight in public, which to me, you sitting there on a couch pouting and saying, "Am I supposed to sit here all day?" That's in public, and it's now been caught on camera. So not sure that you followed that rule. The second one was we don't hug anyone of the opposite sex.
Okay.
Which I think there is some circumstances where that may not always work. Now, I understand like him being all touchy-feely with other women, absolutely not, shut it down. And then the other one was, and I didn't make it through the whole video, but the third rule that I heard was if they're at a restaurant, if the female waitress comes up and is only really talking to Travis, then she will be the one that's ordering for them.
That's
and
a little
if the
much.
male waiter comes up and is only talking to her, then Travis takes over and he's ordering everything.
Okay.
They don't want the opposite gender only talking to.
No talking to the opposite sex.
Well, that's kind of what it sounded like at first. And then they explained, and she was like, no, it's just like if a girl comes up and she's only talking to him, then like I'm going to take over because he's not going to talk back
Sounds
to
like
her.
these Mike Pence
But
rules.
again, it does sound like
Yeah.
there's all these little rules where I'm just
Yeah.
like, if you already have to do that now because
Yeah.
of something that you feel like you've got to keep things contained or whatever, I just worry that it's going to be hard to follow a list of rules and demands when he's trying to be the best NFL player he can be. He's
Yeah.
booked and busy with different events and this and that. And
It
I
seems
think,
to be working for Patrick and Brittany Mahomes.
yeah, it's possible. Again, boundaries are important. Boundaries are important. So I'm not against like rules. I just don't like calling them rules because like that makes me feel like I'm a little kid and I need to like, act all right. But boundaries are healthy. And I just think, and I
There
don't
should just
know
be
enough.
a healthy respect for your partner,
Of
and you don't
course.
want to disrespect them.
Of course.
When there's a list of rules, that makes it kind of a little bit weird.
Well, and right now we shouldn't there shouldn't even be videos out there about his girlfriend not behaving or doing the right thing this weekend. It shouldn't be about her. It's about Travis. And
Yep.
so that's where Travis now needs to puff up his chest and say, listen, I love you. I respect you. We've got these boundaries in place and I'm good with that. But like, you can't be acting that way at my work event. It's embarrassing. And now that is what people are talking about and not the fact that I won the Heisman
Well, I
Award.
don't even think
come on.
Travis is having that conversation with her. He's got her back. And so he's saying,
And that's
this,
what's hard.
You know, she's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But aside from that, props to Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner.
So
and props
awesome.
for the Denver Broncos winning 31-13 over the Indianapolis Colts. 9-5 playoffs. Pretty much, I wouldn't say in hand, but looking pretty strong.
Looking pretty
92%.
92% say the nerds at PFF. All right, guys. Hey, that was a fun show.
Very fun.
Yeah, especially after a win. It's a lot more fun.
Very.
We're going to be back on Wednesday with another edition of Off Field. I'm Liv Moods. He's Brandon Krisztal. Now she's Liv Moods. I'm Nate Jackson. This has been Off Field Girl Sports. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.